Hello, now it's for me difficult to switch to English. Unfortunately, I will speak in English. If I will stay here for a few more days, then I will be able already to speak Serbian. But unfortunately, at that moment, I need to have my contribution in English. I would like to thank you all for coming here, and also to organize for inviting me. It was very interesting to follow all these interesting lessons in the past days and this evening. Under the impression of the title of the conference, I composed my contribution as a quick pictures of actors who compose what we know as class rada. So I will go through these main actors, and I will start first with trade unions, who are, at least in Slovenia, are often referred as workers' aristocracy, in contrast to growing number of precarious workers who do not enjoy or have regular salaries, labor protection, social protection, security, and pension security in old age. I had recently chance to make research in 3 factories in Slovenia, which have all permanent employees. They have very high intensification of labor. Factories work 7 days a week, 24 hours per day. So they cannot afford to have temporary workers because they don't have time for training or whatever. Intensification is very intense, and usually workers do the job which was 5 years ago done by 2 workers in general. We were interested in education of workers at the workplace and their formal education, intensity of labor, working conditions, and so on. But I would like you to pay attention to the structure of trade union membership in these 3 companies. You will see, if you look at it, that the percentage of trade union coverage is much higher among low education level, with workers with low education level, than it is among the high education level. And interestingly also for some feminists here, also the share of female workers is much higher than male workers. So this survey, in which 900 respondents were included, proved that trade union membership represent the weakest part of the workforce, not the workers' aristocracy. So what we have here is a dual structure of workforce on the enterprise level, which obstruct efficient trade union actions. For instance, in Slovenia, we are now in a new wave of privatization, and many workers think about establishing cooperatives to take over the companies and establish the cooperatives. And this dual structure between the workers with educated, high-skilled workers with higher wages, and on the other side, low-educated, low-skilled workers, is an important or incompassible obstacle for establishing the unity among the workers on the company level. And this research somehow confirms what observed Ben Fine, the author of Labor Market Theory, and I quote him: "While all types of labor are exploited vis-à-vis the capital, some workers are in effect exploiters vis-à-vis others." And this situation, I think, is a challenge for trade union to establish the unity among all workers. The next question was also maybe interesting: what do you most want from the trade unions? And this, in all 3 enterprises, as you can see, as the most, they recognize trade union. The trade unions, the most important role is, according to them, representation of workers against the government and employers. So this biggest part of the workforce see trade unions as a possible political force in defending their interests and their rights. The next actor are precarious workers, and I would like, here is important the observation of Italian operaist Mario Tronti, who says that the pressures from the past worker struggles upon capitalist class caused that capitalist class react to these pressures in a way to change the very structure of the workforce. I hope that you understand this. And in the next graph, you can see this new composition of workers which we got from the past class struggle. These are the data only for the Slovenia, but we could easily make comparable data also for other European countries and also for, I believe, for Serbia, Croatia, and so on. We can see in this table that so-called atypical employments represented in 2011 already more than 40% of the workforce. So it is not, atypical employment is not any more exception from the permanent employment, which is according to the European labor laws should be the predominant mode of working relations, but atypical employments represent approaching 50% of the workforce, and the trend is that it will grow fast. There was done recently very interesting research in the United States done by economic geographers in several cities, and they found out that workers' rights violations are not so much related to these atypical employments, but to particular employment relations which are connected to them or behind them. And one of such relation is independent entrepreneurs working in conditions similar to wage-dependent workers. And the second such working relations are triangular labor relations, when the person like mediator or middleman step in between the buyer and the seller of the workforce and use this position as limitation. This middleman actually get a right to represent the access to the labor market. It's not possible to have an access to labor market without a middleman or a mediator. These two new labor relations actually generate elements of modern semi-slave labor, and these two labor relations, unfortunately, are not very well known and not very well researched. Research, and I think it's also intentionally so. The third actor, I will leave employer. It was said a lot during the past days about the lean production and so on, so I believe you know more than I do. I will skip to the state, and the first day it was said that it was a place where the class struggle takes place. First important process on the level of the state is deregulation of employment protection legislation. And here I prepared some data, index called Employment Protection Legislation, done by Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development. And they've done it since 1985, and you can see that in the most countries this index goes, as this organization says, in the right direction. That it means into deregulation and greater flexibilization of labor laws. Here I prepared only data for some countries. It's not true only for Austria and Great Britain, but the starting point is very, as you see, very low. Actually, what is going on, we should not say deregulation, but according to the way standing, the right word is re-regulation, because never in the history probably so many new laws, regulations were written about the labor relations. So what is going on is actually the establishment of new labor regime. Slovenia resisted these trends for quite a long time, as you can see here. One shocking event for the international organization was when Slovenian trade unions refused pension reform on the public referendum, and since then international institutions make big pressures, and finally in the period when there was a huge question whether the Slovenia will have to ask for the loans from Troika or not. At that moment, Slovenian parliament amended the article on a referendum in Slovenian constitution, so that people wouldn't have a chance anymore to have a chance to decide about such issues on public referendum. And at the same period, when the constitution was amended on public referendum, also new labor law was the labor law was amended, and you can see the trend went into, according to OECD, into the right direction. The role of the state is not. There's the second role which I recognize. The second role of the state, which I see as very important, and this is the intentional disregard of control over the implementation of the labor law. I found one example of one staffing agency, Slovenian staffing agency, which recruit workers in Serbia. This is specialized for Serbia. They recruit workers and offer them, as they say, for reasonable price to clients in Slovenia. There was the journalists became interested in this company when I don't remember anymore, in 2009, 2008 or something like that. One of their workers died on the way from the hospital because he was refused medical assistance because the company didn't pay health insurance to him. And it turned out that the journalists wanted from Labor Inspectorate what they have already done about this. It turned out that before that incident, Labor Inspectorate carried out all those actions which I put it here on the PowerPoint presentation. They carried out 12 inspections, 1 offense notification, 5 regulatory decisions, and so on, and even 2 prohibitions of labor process. I checked this company on the internet, but this company still exists and still offers their workers from Serbia for a reasonable price to their clients. And obviously, Labor Inspectorate has no means to stop such illegal staffing agency. And our final actor I would like to introduce is the European Union as a supranational institution. And I will give you 2 examples. What is the attitude of European Union towards the labor issues? First example is false self-employment, or also often called bogus self-employed. These are false self-employment is labor relations between the buyer and the user of the workforce, contracted on the basis of civil contract. They contract this as civil partners, not as employer and employees. And according to many national labor laws, such acts are prohibited. In Slovenia are also. There is a particular article which says that you should not contract labor arrangements through civil contracts when there are elements of labor relations. And there was a group, committee experts led by French lawyer Alain Suppiot, which noticed this and demanded European Union to do something about that. What was the response of the European Commission? There is a reference to one recent report from the European Parliament which says that member states should not obstruct flexibilization of workers, that is, recognize the rights of false self-employed person, but give to the most deprived access to only some basic rights. So instead to impose the rights which these people have, to restore the labor relations to the workers which were forced to work as self-employment. Instead of this, various European countries invent new groups of workers. I enlisted here some of them, which are, I don't know, some are for journalists, for certain occupational groups, some are for particular services, and each of these group is entitled only to some particular rights, but not to all rights, to all working rights. And the other example which I would like to give is the role of European Commission in the negotiations with governments which ask from the Troika for the loans. Yesterday there was a journal Zares distributed here, and I think I would like to invite you to read one article there, and he's speaking about the role of European Commission in collective attitude of European Commission toward the collective bargaining. Here I gave some examples from the Memorandum of Understanding with Greek government, and it is clearly said that European Commission forced Greek government to limit the scope of bargaining system, demand from the state reduction in pay states, demanded also firm level agreements and limited the wage bargaining and so on and so on. But it's not only with Greek governments, it's also with Portugal. The same agreements were made with Portugal, Spain, Italy, and Ireland, and so on. There is a very recent report of an Austrian lawyer with the title "Human Rights in Times of Austerity." And it's an interesting situation that European Commission is not, or European Union is not a signatory party of many international agreements on human rights, including labor rights, like core labor rights, like ILO organization or United Nations declarations, and so on. Only the European member states are signatory parties to these agreements. However, the European Union, the European Union has the obligation towards the Charter of Fundamental Rights of the European Union, where the Article 28 prescribe the right of collective bargaining. So So in the role which European Union takes in the negotiations with the governments who ask for the loans is in these negotiations, European Union intentionally breaks regulation on labor protection. I will finish this and conclude with that it is certainly that we have a class struggle in which capital leads offensive politics against labor, and contrary, labor has defensive labor politics. What seems to me is obvious that old stylish workers' movement and strategies for fight for labor's rights are not operational anymore, and because due to new labor regime, when workers are precarious, work from one factory to the other, change posts, have no ties with the work place where they work, so they have nobody to negotiate with them about their rights and so on and so on. So it is obvious that the strategies from the past, bottom-up organization of the labor force, is efficient only to the certain level, and that what is needed is also top-down politics about which we can discuss later on. Thank you very much.
Hvala.